Hey, what's up, guys? This is Akita Letitia here with Couples Connect. Something pretty interesting on this particular topic. We did some research.
Yes, a lot of research.
We did some research, some hard research. And there's this series, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's called Red Table Talk.
Y'all heard of it.
Yeah, well, you gotta set it up now. But Jada Pinkett and I think her mom, her daughter, and she has like these special guests. This is Will's wife, of course. Y'all know who we're talking about. Yes. But she did an episode with John Gray and I think a relationship counselor. And they talked about quarantine, I guess, struggles with relationships and couples.
Yeah. We're not the only ones, y'all. Everybody.
No. The struggle is real. How about that?
Everybody's going through something.
Yeah. So they talked about a lot of good things in there. Just like, with people who have been married or who have been together for a very long time, and you are now stuck in one place with them.
Like a pressure cooker.
Was
the word that they use. And I think, you know what? I was talking about this, I think, on a podcast, and I was talking about it's like was a pressure cooker? A rice cooker.
A rice cooker.
Same difference.
Yeah, just waiting to
boil
over.
Right, but the pressure and it's like a little steam starts coming out. It's silent, but it's hot.
So anyway, that was good. That was a good analogy.
Thank you.
But yes, I mean, like you feel like like you're sardines in a can and just nowhere to go.
You feel like a sardine in the can.
Do you not?
I want to use that analogy, but
I mean, do you feel like you need to get out? Like you need to?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So
every day.
Sardine can, yes, right?
Every day.
But they brought up some good points, and we just wanted to kind of look at the episode and give our feedback on what we thought about from watching it. So you had some points. I had some points. You want to go first?
Sure. I love the fact, and it's funny because they talked about this, but in another couples group that we were in, we talked about the same thing about fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes.
And you guys got to check this part out because I'm sure I'm not doing this definition justice.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure you did. I believe in you.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Got my notes.
She got her notes.
All right. So the fight is I think these are responses that people have when they're in the sardine or
when they're faced cooker. with some type of pressure, like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought of that, but go ahead, carry on.
Ooh, so they want to fight.
Yeah.
And that's just basically you're aggressive, you're controlling, you just want to get control of the situation.
Yeah.
Which I feel that I kind of get that way, but he thinks that I'm flight, which is you just want to leave, you want to be alone, you need your space. There should be an in-between.
There's probably a combination of all three of them at one point in time.
Right. Yeah.
Depending on what the issue is, and even if you want to deal with it at the moment, doesn't mean that you're going to stay in a fight or flight position, but you may come back and approach it differently later on.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think I've been both.
Yeah.
Both. And then the freeze, which is where it makes a person look like everything's okay and everything isn't okay.
Yeah, they just act real calm and
right. They just act like it's okay.
Right.
But inside it's boiling. Right. Yeah. So where would you say you fit?
I think I'm probably more so freeze.
I think so too.
But yeah, I'm more so freeze. At certain times I'm at the fight mode, depending on how much weight I put on what the situation is.
Yeah.
I'm address it right then and there, but I don't know. I'm naturally like a cool, collected guy, for the most part. So most of the times, if I'm upset or if I'm thinking about something, I'm just processing it in my head, before I actually say something.
Yeah, I definitely think he's a freeze. And I guess this is what you're processing in your head, so you're not it's not really showing outside.
Right.
Just yet.
Right. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Right.
But I'm on the outside, I'm just
freeze. Smile, you're still smiling. Okay, so what do you think I am?
I think you're a combination. Well, I think you are fight, but I also think you're flight too. Depending on if if it's something that you want to kind of talk about? Because you'll have those moments where I'm like, well, what's wrong? Nothing. What's bothering you? Nothing. Don't worry. That's just the
phone.
That's the fax machine. Yeah. So I mean, I think sometimes you are like, when I'm like, hey, what's wrong? You don't. I don't know. Do you feel like I should know the issue, or you just don't want to talk about it? And you'll say nothing's wrong, right? But then you'll come back and you're like, I just think it's funny how,
I don't do that. But I think I start off and fight. And I think that I know that that's not a good place to be. So I'll transition into flight because I don't want, like, I think my thing of like, oh no, is I don't want to talk about it or whatever, is so that it won't be a fight. You know what I mean? So I try to go into flights to try to like process it, to think about it so that it's not an actual fight.
Sure.
I do.
We'll go with that.
You don't think that? So I have to think about it.
No, I think you pick and choose the things that, like, when you know, like, your point that you want to make, like, you'll say it. But when you're not really sure of the argument that you want to take, you don't say nothing.
No, I think I'm mad. Like, I'm mad and I don't want to, like, sometimes, your first emotion, just because you're mad doesn't mean that you should act on it, right? So I think that sometimes I'm mad and I want to kind of try to process and make sure that I've thought about all the, like, that I feel justified. That just because I have my feeling, I want to think about it to make sure that it's a justified feeling.
Okay.
So I kind of want to process it and figure out what it really is. And then if I feel like, yeah, that was right, then
all right.
Then
now,
I'm right. Then I'm right.
I understand it now. I get it.
Do you really?
Now that you explained it, now that I don't necessarily agree. I think I have my own interpretation, but that's just my interpretation. So
okay.
But I got you. So some other things I thought. Were you finished? Or you?
I'm good.
Okay. I'm just checking.
No, you're next. You're next up.
I want to make sure you have another point or nothing.
No, I'm good.
So I liked how Jada, I think, was talking about how she had to kind of realize that she didn't really know, like, her and her husband have been married for however many years. But then in this quarantine, you're literally like stuck in the same place for months, right? And she realized, I don't really know you. She's like, and you don't really know me, because there are certain things that, after a while, you start to really become your real self after a certain amount of time with somebody. And on a regular day, without this whole quarantine thing, you can be with somebody for a few hours, but then you go off and do your own thing. You go to work, you go to the gym, wherever you go. But now you're like stuck. So she has to relearn her husband, and Will has to, relearn her. So I thought that was really, really interesting,
Yeah, I thought that I got completely what she was saying. I think I probably would have, or I see it as like people grow. And so not that like I don't know you, but like you've grown. And you know what I mean? You made how you were 5 years ago when we first met. I shouldn't expect that you're that way now. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's what she meant, but I just felt like.
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think, one, she probably didn't see the growth because she hasn't been stuck in the house with him for so long. But also, there are probably just things that you don't notice when you're not with somebody for that long.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Certain habits that you have, or things that we may unconsciously not do in front of our spouse. You know what I mean? That now we have no choice because we're around each other 24/7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I
think both points are good.
I think there definitely is a like where you start to put some of the pieces together. Like, oh, that's why you always do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Like, I might be with you, know that you do it all the time, but I didn't really understand why before. So I think I've had like,
and I think that's good. I think it's good for you to, like, intentionally relearn your spouse. right? Instead of like saying
you
have to, because if not, you're gonna be like, oh, I hate when they do that, or why do you always say stuff, or why do you always not say stuff, why are you always talking? No, but why are you always like doing this? Why are you always doing that? And then, like you said, think of why, yourself. Try to put the pieces together. Oh, when they do this, it's because of this. Or,
well, what's one thing that you learned
I know
quarantine that you didn't know before?
That you don't necessarily like to be around people all the time.
You didn't know that before?
No. Not, I didn't think I was in that category. I'm like, my space, y'all. Look, every day she's like, I'm about to go to Starbucks, and then 5 hours later she come back. I'm like, how long was the line at Starbucks? So
I hurt my neck. Sorry.
I guess I had to realize and understand that you are, you like to be alone.
I'm introverted.
As and I'm quite the opposite, where I like people and I like to be around people more so than not.
Right.
Not to say that you don't like people, but you like a good chunk of your time to be by yourself.
Like, I don't mind going shopping or to the mall. Right. All by myself. I don't mind doing that.
Yep.
So that's what you learned? You didn't know that before? I guess before, because because before you're going your way, I'm going my way, right. And that's my like alone time. Even if I was at work, it's still my individual time. Yeah. Like, I'm not Akita's wife, At work, I'm Letitia, and right. So I think it's more so that, like, also reconnecting with your personal self. I think I struggle with the different roles, like shifting from like mother to this to that, like a smooth shift sometimes. I forgot what.
But that's good points though. You're making good points. Keep going.
What my point was. But yeah, so I can see now, I think you definitely wanting to, especially when you come out of, and I think the funny thing about this quarantine is that you have your normal, or you have your space, and like if you're in a good flow, where you're kind of like, okay, cool, this is who I am, this is how I'm moving, and you don't realize how much who you are or how you're moving is attached to the things that you're doing, right? And so when you stop doing those things, and now it's like, who am, like,
it was
what's
like
happening?
It was your identity or something.
Yeah, you don't realize, like, my little trips to Starbucks and my little Barnes and Nobles and my little read time, and it was like that stuff was attached to me. And so when that stuff was gone, it was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want people calling me for everything. Yeah. And
I can probably say the same, like, when you go into work, that's like your own other your little own space. You know what I mean? And you have this job, you have this title, you have these coworkers, you have these employers and these employees. And when you're now stuck at home, it's like you're just dad or husband.
Or people are calling you, you're not used to them, like, what do you want now? Like, right. I just want to read the book. Right. Like, I'm just trying to listen to the podcast.
Like,
I'm
Mommy,
used to listening
Daddy,
to the
right. I need you to do this. I need you to go to there.
Right. Yep. So I think
it's an adjustment.
Definitely.
It's an adjustment. So what are some other points you had?
I really liked what she was talking about. I think the therapist was talking about sometimes we get into that already know space. And so what she meant was, like, we get into that place where it's like, you already know what that person's going to do. Yeah. Like, you know them so well. I just know what you're going to do. And I think that happens. I know we
do that all the time.
You're just like, all the time. Why? Because you want to do such and such anyway. Right. Well, no, maybe I'm not going to.
We've gotten to the place where you'll even ask me a question because you think I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. So you try to beat me to the chase and ask the question a certain way.
No, see, he thinks.
No, you do.
He thinks that he knows me. And I'm trying to ask this question to get to the next question when I'm really just asking that question.
No, not so. Sometimes yes. Sometimes yes. But sometimes
I'm not. You do that. You ask
we both
questions.
Do that. We both do that. Well, I'll admit that I do that. We'll wait for her to kind of,
I don't do that.
Admit. But so you don't assume that I'm gonna respond a certain way or do a certain thing before you approach me?
No.
You don't ever
What
do
is
that.
the example?
You said that you got that point from Jada herself.
No, but I'm talking about, like, I already know maybe how you're going to react. Like, I don't put my questions together to be like, okay, I'm gonna ask him like this because he's gonna react like that. I think that just in general, like if you say something or you express something, in my mind, I already kind of know how you're gonna move on it.
So let me correct myself. This is what I meant.
Okay.
If I ask you a question,
right,
you'll give me an answer based off of what you think I'm asking you. Or what I'm trying to, what you think I'm, what I'm trying to get at.
Right. I will read in between the lines of what you actually said.
What?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Oh.
So like you'll say something to me and then I'll like read in between the lines what you're really trying to get at and answer it according to what I think you're really trying to ask me.
Right. But we both do that though. We both do that. So
no,
I don't do that too?
No, you do. I'm saying you do it.
And you do that.
I don't think I do
You don't
that.
think so let me give you an example. So if I say, hey Letitia, do you want to go to the store at 10 o'clock? And then you'll have a response like, well, I gotta do such and such and such and such and such and such. So you didn't really answer the question, but you gave me the reasons why your time is going to be used up, as opposed to just saying yes or no if you wanted to go at a certain time.
Well, I told myself giving like options or like, okay, so what I do is I feel the need to like overly explain. I guess I can kind of assume a lot of things.
So that's what we're talking. So basically you're saying you do it then. When you said you don't.
Okay, I don't know. I think maybe I'm getting different, I don't know. We need somebody else.
Y'all weigh in. We'll move on from that.
Next one. Just tell us if you do. It's still undetermined.
Yeah, we gotta figure this thing out. But what I did like, this is a weird segue, but what I liked was John Gray, and just how transparent he was to.
I appreciate that.
Talk about in the areas that he needs to improve on, and just how he didn't have access to certain examples and people to kind of direct him into the right place or the right way he was supposed to father and to be a husband and things like that. I just love his transparency, and I think it's good for us all to try to get to that place.
I was thinking when you were talking, you have to be at such a place of self-awareness to be able to be that transparent.
Yeah.
And I think because we try to be as transparent as possible, but sometimes if you're not like self-aware, you can't even really verbalize it because you haven't taken the time to understand that it's something you're struggling with.
Yeah.
Or something that is there.
Yeah.
And that's when spouses come in. You never heard that?
No.
Like your spouse is there to help you grow and help you see.
I mean, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we are, we should be causing each other to grow and call us up instead of, calling us out. But yeah, I just love the man's transparency, and he is funny. The guy is funny, and that probably gives him a certain amount of grace to be able to do that. But I just.
You're funny too.
Yeah, well, I try a little bit,
So you want to be transparent with us?
What? I think I've been a little transparent.
Like, since we talking about that.
I've been a little transparent. I think I have a habit of assuming things. Like, I always think I know what you're trying to say, or I don't really take you at what you say, and I'd like, or what you really mean is, or what you're trying to say is this, that, or the other. So yes, I will admit to that. Yes. I have no problem with that.
Yep.
You don't even know what to do now, huh?
My neck. Oh.
You ain't got nothing no more.
Crack in my neck. Yeah, I agree. That's good.
So what other points did you have? Let's keep this thing going.
All right. So, she did talk about, so to segue in there, they also talked about rediscovering yourself and each other. And she was talking about treating it like it's a honeymoon, treating your relationship.
Oh yeah, I love that.
And I think that what I like looking at stuff like that. First to grow, but I also like to like assess where we are in the stuff that we do, because I think we do a lot of stuff that we don't recognize are like good tools, to be sharing with other people. Like up until this quarantine, we used to be going out like to hotels, to vacations, to play like every 3 months.
Yep.
Cause
always on a date, always going out to eat.
Yeah, it was like a necessity.
It still is. I mean, it still is.
Yeah, I was.
I think it's important for couples to invest in each other. In that way, going out on dates or wherever. I mean, if you have the means, if not, be creative, but do something that takes you out of that life, space. Because that life space is like.
It's hard.
It's crazy.
It's hard. I remember we went to a counseling session one time, and so and you got to be careful because like people around you, like even if you don't like, you can budget to go away somewhere. Like even if you get like a $50, $60, depending on where you live, like hotel room for a night or whatever, you could really just budget. Put it in your budget for maybe 2 or 3 months to be able to go somewhere, right? Yeah. But I feel like sometimes we used to catch like a lot of flack from people because we would go so much and we had a big family, right? So it was kind of like, you don't have no money for this, but you got money for that. You don't have no, whatever. But I remember when we went to a counselor, she was like, no, getaways are essential to your marriage.
Yeah.
Like to the survival of your marriage, to the health of your marriage. That is where you're able to, not want to say debrief, but you're able to like breathe.
Yeah. Because think about it, if you were to work, for the whole year and never take any vacation, never take any sick time, never take a day off or anything like that, working long hours, that will affect you. And not only that, but stress can sometimes affect you in ways that can be irreversible or traumatizing, and think about a marriage or think about a family as as a responsibility, like a job or like a place of employment. And if you don't take time away to kind of clear your mind and get out of that arena for a while, it could be traumatizing to you. It could affect you in ways that could be hard to reverse. So it's important. It's important for couples to get away.
And then I think just even the rekindling part.
Yeah.
Because he'll tell you, like, I'm more affectionate, I'm more like free-spirited when we go away. And so like if you're in this thing just full of like responsibilities,
you just as free as you want to be when we go away.
That's why it's essential.
She be free, y'all.
He already talks about I like to get out. I like to be. I do not like, So anyway, but you got to know that. You got to know that about yourself, and you got to do what's good for you guys.
Yeah.
And not everybody else. So that I thought was really good. And I guess one more.
Oh,
do one more.
The communication. She talked about communication. They all actually advocated for better communication and to just not just like talk about stuff, like talk about work or money or things like that, but to talk about each other's dreams, talking about each other's goals and the stuff that you talked about when you were dating, the stuff that you talked about that drew you guys to each other,
right?
Have those types of conversations. And what else did she say?
Make a list,
right,
of what
you like,
what is good about your partner.
Yeah. So what is good about your partner? The things that, their highlights, what highlights them, what gifts do they bring, what talents they have, and what makes them a good person. I think it's good to be intentional about telling that person.
First she said, though, write a list about the things that you think are good about you.
Yeah.
Then write a list of what you think is good about your partner, and then exchange it.
Yeah.
And then praise. So then like after you've written a list about what you think are good about me, or good about yourself, then I take the list and I'm like, yeah, Kitty, you are really good at this, and yeah, you're really good at that. And then I look at the list you wrote for me, and I'm like, yeah, I am really good at this. And so
you gotta pat yourself on the back a little bit, And sometimes you gotta remind your spouse about the things that you bring, and vice versa. So
Yeah. And she said to stay in that positive space.
Yeah.
And I think when we go away,
It's
like, it's all positive. We're like, we about to have a good time. I don't even care if they give us the wrong room. We are not with all them kids. And so everything is just like, it's like a honeymoon space.
Yeah. It
That's
really
a
is.
good analogy.
It really is. Go on your honeymoons.
Yeah.
Often. Go on your honeymoons often. And it makes all the difference. You come back refreshed, and you may like, dread walking back in the door and everybody call your name and you got reality hit you back in the face, but you're more like recharged to deal with those things.
You be sitting there on the last day like, how we could get one more day.
Right.
Who could
like, should I call my job?
Who could keep the kids? Who will keep them for another day?
Yep.
Well, now they're older now, so it's easier.
They can handle it.
They've grown, so for the most part.
But yeah. So we enjoyed the episode. Jada did a great job putting this all together, and John Gray, phenomenal. The counselor, she dropped some jewels that were really, really good. So if you guys have a chance, look at the Red Table Talk with John Gray.
I should have put what it's called. I think it has something to do with
It's like quarantine, surviving, couple surviving in quarantine.
Yeah.
But a lot of good stuff, and it was funny, good to watch. So check that out. We hope you guys like this episode, and drop your comments on how you guys try to keep from choking each other out. What do y'all do? Do you get your alone time? Do you still have dates in the home? Do you set some time for each other? Let us know. Drop the comments down in there.